In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, a period known as the Scramble for Africa saw European powers such as Britain, France, Germany, and Belgium invade, divide, and colonize the African continent. Here are a few reasons why we believe this to have happened. Economic interests. In the late 1800s, as Europe's factories grew stronger during the Industrial Revolution, their hunger for raw materials became urgent. Africa was seen as a treasure chest filled with valuable resources like gold, diamonds, rubber, and ivory. These materials were essential for making everything, from machines to household goods in Europe. By 1886, vast deposits of gold were found in South Africa's Witwatersrand, and so word spread like wildfire. Prospectors flooded the fields. Entrepreneurs like Cecil Rhodes quickly moved in, founding the British South Africa Company. Chartered in 1889 to mine gold and later diamonds, Rhodes dreamed of a Cape to Cairo railway that would bind British territories and their riches together. In the Congo, King Leopold II of Belgium played a darker game. At the 1884 to 1885 Berlin Conference, he convinced other European powers to recognize his personal rule over the Congo Free State. Under the guise of philanthropy, Leopold's agents forced villages to meet impossible rubber quotas, and villagers who failed faced brutal punishment. Ivory and rubber flowed back to Europe, fattening Leopold's coffers and spurring international outrage when reports of abuse leaked out. Meanwhile, the rubber boom in West Africa, sparked by growing demand for bicycle and automobile tires, drew French and British firms alike. Palm oil, too, became vital for making soap and candles, while timber from dense rainforests built ships and railway ties. Every newly discovered resource intensified the rush. Railroads snaked into the interior. Telegraph lines connected mining camps to ports, and stock markets in London and Paris buzzed with investors buying shares in African concessions. These economic drives were personal as well as national. A young Belgian speculator might rise from modest beginnings to untold wealth through a single diamond concession, while factory owners in Manchester and Lyon watched their profits climb. The promise of quick fortune, paired with the power of empire, made Africa the ultimate prize in Europe's race for industrial supremacy. Another major reason for the scramble for Africa was the powerful desire of European countries to expand their empires and show their strength to the world. Countries like Britain, France, Germany, Belgium, and Portugal all wanted to grow bigger and stronger by controlling more land and people. For Britain, it was a matter of national pride. Leaders like Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli and influential figures such as Cecil Rhodes believed that controlling vast territories meant power and respect on the world stage. Rhodes, in particular, saw empire building as a way to connect British lands from South Africa to Egypt, creating a giant Cape to Cairo railway that would symbolize British dominance. France, recovering from defeat in the Franco-Prussian War of 1870–71, was eager to regain its place among the great powers by expanding its colonial holdings. Under leaders like Jules Ferry, France aggressively claimed large parts of West and North Africa. For them, the empire was also about spreading French culture and civilization, which they saw as a duty. Germany was a latecomer to the race for colonies. Chancellor Otto von Bismarck had been cautious at first, focusing more on European affairs, but as other nations grabbed African lands, Bismarck decided Germany couldn't be left out. At the Berlin Conference of 1884 to 1885, he helped organize the rules for dividing Africa and secured German colonies like Namibia and Cameroon, boosting Germany's status as a world power. Belgium, under King Leopold II, was unique because Leopold treated the Congo as his private empire, motivated by personal ambition rather than national policy. Portugal, with its long history of exploration, wanted to reconnect and strengthen its old African holdings in Angola and Mozambique to remain relevant. In all these cases, imperial ambitions combined with economic interests. Colonies were seen as trophies that showed a nation's strength and influence. The race to claim African lands was as much about pride and power as it was about profit. In all honesty, each country wanted to prove it was a great power by owning a piece of Africa, alongside economic interests and imperial ambitions. Controlling strategic locations in Africa was another major reason for the scramble. European powers realized that certain parts of Africa were key to protecting important trade routes and strengthening their military presence around the world. Take the Suez Canal in Egypt, for example. This man-made waterway, opened in 1869, connected the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea, making the trip from Europe to Asia much faster. Britain, which relied heavily on trade with India, the jewel in the crown of its empire, knew that controlling Egypt meant controlling this vital shortcut. In 1882, Britain took military action to occupy Egypt and secure the canal, making it a central part of its global trade network. Similarly, South Africa's Cape Colony was crucial for controlling the sea route around the southern tip of Africa. The British seized this area earlier in the 19th century and later fought the Boer Wars to secure their hold over the valuable diamond and gold mines. This gave them both economic riches and strategic naval bases to protect their shipping lanes. Germany and France also sought strategic footholds. Germany's colony of Togoland provided a valuable port on the West African coast, while France established bases in Algeria and Senegal to control parts of the Atlantic coast and protect its interests in the Mediterranean. For Portugal, maintaining its older colonies in Angola and Mozambique was important to keep a presence along the African coast and preserve its historical trading routes. These strategic locations were more than just land. They were gateways that allowed European powers to move their armies, protect their merchant ships, and maintain global influence. Control over ports, canals, and naval bases in Africa strengthened their ability to defend their empires and expand their reach. In short, securing strategic spots across Africa helped European countries guard their interests worldwide and was a key reason behind the intense competition during the scramble for Africa. All these economic, imperial, and strategic goals created intense competition and rivalry among European nations. The scramble for Africa was really just about not letting other countries get ahead. Each power wanted to secure as much territory as possible to increase their influence and prevent rivals from becoming too strong. For example, Britain and France often found themselves racing to claim the same areas. When France expanded into West Africa, Britain quickly moved to protect its interests in nearby regions like Nigeria and Sierra Leone. This competition led to tense moments and almost sparked wars. Germany's entry into the race made things even more complicated. Chancellor Otto von Bismarck organized the famous BerlinConference of 1884 to 1885 to manage this rivalry peacefully. At the conference, European powers agreed on rules to divide Africa without fighting each other. However, no African leaders were invited, and the continent was divided with little regard for existing cultures or borders. Belgium's King Leopold II also got caught up in this rivalry. His personal claim over the Congo was partly driven by the desire to prove Belgium's power among Europe's giants. Meanwhile, Portugal fought to keep control of its old colonies, even though it was weaker compared to the others. The race wasn't just political, as it stirred strong feelings of national pride. Countries wanted to show their citizens and the world that they were great powers. Having colonies in Africa became a symbol of national strength and success. In the end, this fierce competition pushed European powers to grab as much African land as they could, often ignoring the wishes and rights of the people who lived there. The rivalry among nations was one of the main reasons Africa was divided so quickly and harshly during the late 19th century. Alongside fierce competition and economic interests, many Europeans believed they had a moral duty to civilize Africa. This idea, known as the civilizing mission, became a popular justification for colonization. Europeans thought it was their responsibility to bring their culture, religion, and ways of life to African societies, which they often unfairly labeled as backward or uncivilized. Christian missionaries played a key role in this mission. People like David Livingstone, the Scottish explorer and missionary, were among the first Europeans to travel deep into Africa with the goal of spreading Christianity and Western education. Livingstone's writings inspired many in Europe and convinced them that colonization could help save African souls and improve their lives. Governments also supported this view. For example, France saw itself as the protector and teacher of less advanced people. French leaders believed spreading the French language, laws, and customs would bring progress and order. This was called mission civilisatrice. Schools, churches, and hospitals were built, but these efforts often ignored or destroyed African traditions. The civilizing mission also linked to ideas like social Darwinism, which wrongly suggested Europeans were more evolved and destined to rule others. These beliefs made it easier for Europeans to justify taking control of land and people, claiming they were helping rather than harming. However, this mission masked the harsh realities of colonization. While Europeans talked about bringing civilization, they often exploited African labor, seized lands, and imposed foreign rule without consent. In short, the civilizing mission gave a moral excuse for European colonization, blending religious zeal and cultural arrogance. It helped Europeans believe they were doing the right thing, even as they changed Africa forever. As a result of this quest for territories, between 1884 and 1885, the Berlin Conference, led by German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck, took place. It was held to avoid conflict among European powers and to agree on how to divide and occupy Africa. But although, as we said earlier, no African leader was invited, the rules agreed in the conference were simple: effective occupation. A European country could only claim a territory if it had authority there, for example, troops, administration, or treaties with local rulers. Notification. Any new territorial claim had to be formally announced to the other European powers. Free trade. Trade was to remain open in the Congo Basin and along the Niger and Congo rivers. Protection of indigenous people. On paper, powers agreed to protect native people and suppress slavery, though in reality, this was rarely followed. The conditions were also laid out. The colonizing power had to physically control the area and not just plant a flag. It had to establish a government, police force, or trading post. The power also needed to sign treaties, often unfair ones, with local African chiefs. Colonies had to be administered directly to show continuous presence and authority. The decisions made during the Berlin Conference and the rapid occupation that followed divided Africa into artificial borders, ignoring existing cultures and kingdoms. Unfortunately, the legacy of this division still affects Africa today through border conflicts, displaced communities, and disrupted traditional systems.